Welcome, future diagnostic detectives. Let's get right into this explainer. Today, we're taking microscopic histology and transforming it into your practical, everyday clinical diagnostic toolkit. And hey, did you know the mouth actually heals twice as fast as the skin? Well, let's find out exactly why that is.
So, when your next patient opens up, I want you to remember, they aren't just showing you their teeth. No, they're presenting you with a brilliantly engineered mucosal barrier. It's essentially a map of clues pointing to both local and systemic health. You're looking at a tissue that can reveal things like diabetes, vitamin deficiencies, or the localized effects of tobacco and alcohol use. It's literally all right there. You just have to know how to read the signs. Here's our clinical round schedule for today's session. First up, we're mapping the oral cavity. Second, we'll look at the microscopic protective barrier. Third, we're going beneath the surface epithelium. And finally, number 4, we'll see how it all acts as a window to systemic health. Okay, section 1, mapping the oral cavity. We're going to break this down into 3 distinct zones. Look at these numbers for a second. The lining mucosa absolutely dominates here, making up a massive 60% of the total oral cavity. Then you've got your masticatory mucosa coming in at 25%, and finally, the specialized mucosa takes up the remaining 15%. But, what do these numbers actually mean for you clinically? Let's break it down. As a clinician, distinguishing between these tissue types is absolutely critical, especially when you're giving injections. Think about it. Masticatory mucosa, which covers the gingiva and the hard palate, is keratinized. It's firm. It's built to withstand the heavy friction of chewing. But on the flip side, the lining mucosa covering the cheeks, lips, and the floor of the mouth, that is non-keratinized. It's soft, it's pliable, and experiences minimal attrition. Understanding this difference in firmness isn't just trivia. It is a vital tactile skill you're going to use every single day in practice. And rounding out that final 15% is the specialized mucosa on the dorsal tongue. This area is uniquely structured with cornified epithelial papillae, specifically to house our taste buds. Get this, humans have roughly 10,000 taste buds, and the vast majority of them are housed right here in this specialized zone. That's what allows us to perceive flavor, making this area completely functionally distinct from the rest of the mouth. Moving right along to section 2, the microscopic protective barrier. Let's zoom in and look at the cellular defenses. So, about 90% of your epithelial cells are keratinocytes, and they go on this incredible journey. They start down in the deeper basal cell layer, where they're actively undergoing rapid mitotic division. From there, they're pushed upward through the prickle cell layer and then the granular cell layer, flattening out as they go. Finally, they reach the top, the keratinized layer. Here, they actually lose their nuclei and organelles, becoming completely dehydrated. Basically, they turn into these densely packed, flat, lifeless shields of keratin, literal armor for the mouth. Now here is a crucial concept for you. Odland bodies. You'll find these in all types of oral epithelium. They're also known as membrane-coating granules, or keratinosomes, and they hang out right between the granular and cornified layers. Their main job? Producing a critical defense permeability barrier. They're positioned perfectly right in that transition zone. From that exact spot, these granules are ready to deploy their protective materials straight across the intercellular spaces to do their job. It's a highly localized defense system. To really visualize this, think of the epithelial cells as a brick wall. In this analogy, the Odland bodies are the dynamic waterproofing mortar and security sealant right between the bricks. They literally lock hydration in and keep foreign invaders out. I mean, without this dynamic permeability barrier, our oral mucosa would just rapidly dehydrate. Plus, it would be incredibly vulnerable to the countless microbes we ingest every single day. Okay, so if keratinocytes make up 90% of the cells and form the wall, what about the other 10%? Well, these non-keratinocytes are essentially your specialized security team and sensory network. You've got melanocytes, which produce melanin and give the tissue its color. You've got Merkel cells acting as tactile sensory touch receptors. Then there are the Langerhans cells. These actually originate from the bone marrow and act as your dendritic immune sentinels. And finally, lymphocyte cells, which are right there ready to mediate inflammation. Which brings us to section 3, beneath the surface epithelium. We're diving into the connective foundation. Let's trace the structural connection downward now. We move from the superficial epithelium at the top, down through the basement membrane, which is called the basal lamina, and finally into the connective tissue of the lamina propria, which has both papillary and reticular parts. That basal lamina in the middle, It's a fascinating, cell-free zone packed of collagen and fibronectin. It essentially acts as the critical glue holding the surface cells to the deep tissue. Now, this interface isn't just flat. It has what we call a Velcro effect. You have these downward epithelial projections called rate pegs interlocking with upward connective tissue papillae. It literally acts like structural Velcro. This irregular shape vastly increases the surface contact area to strengthen the attachment. But here's the really cool part. Because the epithelium completely lacks its own blood vessels, it relies entirely on this highly folded, velvety interface to pull nutrition upward from the blood vessels in the lamina propria.
All right, let's bring it all together in Section 4, Window to Systemic Health. This is where we get into clinical diagnostics. This is the payoff, folks. This is where we apply all that microscopic anatomy to the macro, systemic signs you'll be looking for in your actual practice. When you're charting a patient, mucosal color is your very first diagnostic metric. It's dictated by 4 things: the concentration or dilation of underlying blood vessels, the thickness of the epithelium, the degree of keratinization, and the amount of melanin pigmentation. So that color isn't just some random shade. It's a direct visual readout of those 4 microscopic variables combined. If the epithelium thins out or those blood vessels dilate, boom, the color changes immediately.
And that is exactly why recognizing these variations is so vital. Local or systemic issues will rapidly shift that tissue from a normal, healthy pale pink straight to an inflamed, pathologic red. So when you're doing an exam and you see that sudden shift to red, you should know instantly, okay, I'm probably looking at dilated blood vessels responding to inflammation or maybe a thinning of that protective keratinized layer.
You also have to be able to distinguish between actual pathology and just natural aging. Aging in the mucosa shows up as epithelial thinning, decreased cellular proliferation, and decreased keratinization. You'll see a loss of submucosal elastin and fat, and increased fibrotic connective tissue. And remember that Velcro we just talked about? Well, as patients age, those rete pegs become way less prominent. Knowing all this is exactly how you differentiate between a healthy aging mouth and one that's suffering from an active disease process. One big takeaway here: always perform tactile checks during your exams. The submucosa dictates mobility, period. The presence or absence of that underlying layer completely determines if the tissue is freely movable or rigidly fixed to the bone. For example, the lining of the cheeks has a movable, fatty, glandular submucosa. It's loose, but the gingiva and the hard palate, they attach directly to the bone as an immovable mucoperiosteum. They lack that submucosal layer entirely. So as you head into the clinic, I want to leave you with this final thought. Are you going to look at your next patient simply as a set of teeth and gums? Or will you see a holistic mirror reflecting their overall systemic health? If you master this map, you won't just be treating mouths. You'll be uncovering the hidden realities of your patient's health. Keep all this in mind during your next exam. You've got this.